What's up everyone, Thralls Metal here once again. I'm the Crack Nick and I'm doing another response video. This is, I guess, technically a response to the Dark Path. He just did a response video to a different part of the metal YouTube community. They have an interesting subject going on, and I actually really like this one because I think it's kind of a interesting and kind of tough one. This is 10 great albums that have one bad track. And I really kind of had to go digging on this one. And there is definitely at least one repeat from the Dark Path video on this. And this one is kind of unique and kind of tough because I feel like I'm trashing a great album, which, I don't know, that's not in my nature, because if something's great to me, I usually just heap praise upon it until it's absolutely sick of me. But this is a chance to kind of just peg out maybe one weak moment in an otherwise perfect album. And I got some pretty good examples, at least albums that I feel very strongly about, that just have one track that sticks out for a negative reason. So before I get into this, definitely check out Dark Path's channel. I will link it down below in the description. He does some really killer videos. And again, I'm not sure who started this thread, but credit goes to where it's due. So whoever started this thread, thank you for putting out this really cool idea. So yeah, go around the YouTube metal community, see who's doing it. Maybe they actually threw out a name, but yeah, this is a cool idea, and let's get into it. Megadeth, rest in peace. Dark Path brought this one up. I love this album. This is one of my favorite thrash metal albums, one of my favorite Megadeth albums, but he had one that I instantly thought of even, before I clicked on his video, and that is Dawn Patrol on here. Literally, I love every single track on here. And this is the remastered edition that came out, let's see, when did that come out? 2004? And it actually has a bonus track called My Creation, which I would gladly throw that in on the regular track in this album versus Dawn Patrol. Dawn Patrol is just, it's just a strange track. It's kind of carried by a weird bass line, and it's kind of Dave doing a spoken word about some post-apocalyptic, I don't know, whatever. It's not a great track, and it sticks out like a sore thumb because, like, literally every track on here is absolutely amazing. Like, literally my favorite Megadeth song is probably Holy War's Punishment Due. On this album, Five Magics, Poison Was the Cure, Tornado of Souls, and then you have this shitty little interlude, honestly. It doesn't fit, and it's just kind of this little weird thing that's on there, and it hampers what is otherwise a brilliant album. But yeah, I totally agree with you, Dark Path. Dawn Patrol has always been on my list of just why the fuck is it on there. But yeah, otherwise, brilliant album. So yeah, that's one down. Chimera, The Impossibility of Reason. I absolutely love this album. Kind of fell in with let's see, the new wave of American heavy metal back in the early 2000s. Metalcore, groove metal, it kind of all fit in there. And this was like their big album, the one that really kind of launched them, a little bit more into the spotlight. Pass Out of Existence was an okay album. It definitely had still some like elements of new metal in there, and I don't know, it was just kind of a wonky listen, kind of front to back. Like, songs didn't necessarily gel as well. This one, I think they sensed the pressure to make a better follow-up, and they rose to the occasion. Absolutely killer album, except the song Down Again. It's the radio nugget. It's the most tame, like, radio-friendly metal track on there. It features more clean vocals on it by Mark Hunter, which Mark Hunter, granted, is an awesome growler. He had a really unique scream, growl. It was very aggressive. His clean vocals weren't very strong. They kind of tried to do like a more like Alice in Chainsy sort of like harmonized, vocal hook on it, and it just screams, leftover new metal. It really just doesn't fit in the album. In fact, the bonus tracks that came out on, I believe, the import version of this, like Indifferent to Suffering, should have been on here instead of Down Again. I get that they wanted a single. This was a period where, you're still trying to get on the radio somewhat. Granted, that sort of thing has changed, but it just, again, sticks out as this kind of tame piece on an otherwise hyper-aggressive album. I love jamming this album, but I almost always skip that song just because it's the most watered down thing on here and it does not feel like it belongs. And honestly, I have the DVD for the whole making of this album, and it didn't seem as though they were huge fans of the song either. But it was something that was essentially put upon them by probably the record labels, like, hey, we need like one little bullshit friendly song to throw in a radio station that'll play you for about a week and then totally forget about you. So that's why that is there, and it's a blemish on an otherwise awesome album. I think this is one of my favorites by Chimera. The two that followed it were also awesome as well. But yeah, that one always just struck me as just a weird song on, again, an otherwise just brutal, heavy album. So yeah, if you've never checked this album out before, check it out. And then maybe check out Down Again, and then if you see what I mean, you don't ever have to listen to it again. Metallica and Justice for All. An otherwise awesome album. I really love this album despite the fact that, you know, the bass is like completely mixed out of it and so on and so forth. But there's always been one song that I just can't get into on here, and that is Eye of the Beholder. I definitely know that there are fans of that song. I never got it. It's the most boring song, and it kind of just goes nowhere. Like, it just has this very kind of basic kind of breakdown riff to it, and it's just there. And it's a long there. It's 6 minutes and 25 seconds of The fact that it is sandwiched between the title track and one doesn't help because those two songs are particularly strong. I mean, this album's a classic. I just never got into that. I almost always skip that one in favor of literally any other track on here. It's always struck me as the weakest link. It's probably the least imaginative on here. I know there are people out there that don't really like To Live Is To Die. I actually do like that song. It is a little long-winded, but I think the meaning behind it actually kind of lifts it up a little bit. Eye of the Beholder just, it's there. That's kind of my big issue, and it does kind of hamper this album a little bit for me. But honestly, this is probably the first Metallica album in their discography where I said there was just one song I didn't like, because up to this point in their career, I pretty much liked everything. Again, this album is awesome. I do love it. I don't love it as much as Master of Puppets or Ride the Lightning, but it is a hell of an album. But yeah, Eye of the Beholder is just a dull track, and I frequently skip it. Yeah, really don't need to go that much into this one. Most people know this album, but yeah, Eye of the Beholder, not great. Kyuss, Welcome to Sky Valley. This is my favorite Kyuss album. I mean, might have spoiled it for a ranking in the future, but it is kind of a short discography, and this album is absolutely incredible. Except for one moment, I might be reaching a little bit here just because it's just a minute-long song, but it comes at the end of an otherwise amazing album, Lick Do, and it's dumb. I don't know why it's on there. Like, they just had like a little bit more time left, and they just wanted to make a little joke song, and generally joke songs I don't have a problem with, but the fact that it came after just such an amazing album, like, this is some of the best stoner metal I think you'll ever hear, at least in my opinion. But Lick Do is just this dumb extra minute-long song that's on there, and it's tracked separately. Like, this is literally only broken up into 3 tracks for the main big tracks, and then just this little minute-long turd of a song. I never got that. It just seems like the dumbest way to end an album, but it's whatever. It's kind of a reach again because it's only like a minute long, and everything else on here is much longer, much more thought out, and I don't know, but just the brief moment of just dumb. I don't know, it just kind of irks me on an otherwise really, really cool record. But yeah, Lick Do. Pretty much just skip it. It's just a dumb little novelty song, but definitely jam this album because Kyuss fucking rules. Machine Head, Burn My Eyes. This is their debut album, came out in 1994. This was a huge album for me back in my teenage years. This really got me into like the groove metal scene. I was already into Pantera at that point, and I was just kind of reaching out from there. And when I heard this album, it absolutely blew me away. I actually picked up the old single before that had some really cool live tracks on it. I absolutely love this album, but the song Real Eyes, as in real eyes, Realize as in realization, and Real Lies as in someone really lied to you, I don't know how else to explain that, is just kind of an annoying filler track that I don't know, it screams like it was supposed to be an instrumental and they were just kind of layering on like news samples about how horrible the world is. That hasn't changed much, but it's just kind of one riff, a groovy beat, and then just all this news chatter, and then a very staticky scream from Rob Flynn saying the song title, and that's kind of it. It's just kind of a dull little like interlude track that segues into the last track, Block, which is one of my favorites on the album. Literally everything else on here is absolutely killer. I've jammed this album front to back so many damn times, but that track I always ended up skipping because it's just kind of, you know, repetitious, and it's like 3 minutes and I feel like it carries on for way too long. I feel like if they had stripped out all the news samples and just done like an instrumental or something like that, and maybe it would have been better. I'm at least thankful this comes towards the end. If this popped up in the middle, that would have been like, you know, someone break checking the album too quickly. But yeah, I just don't like that song. It's, you know, kind of barely a song. It feels like a half idea that they didn't, you know, nurture to song adulthood. And it kind of just sticks out like a sore thumb on here. The rest of this album, absolutely killer. Like one of the best groove metal albums out there still. And I still jam this one a hell of a lot. This is probably the Machine Head album I probably go to the most since I have like the most, you know, nostalgia in terms of connection with. And it still holds up remarkably well. Except for Realize. Yeah, repetitive, and skip it. Not a great track on an otherwise killer album. Death, Human. Ooh, I might get some shit for this one. I love this album. I think it's a fantastic album, and in fact, I think Death's discography is perfect as in terms of there's not really a bad album in it at all. And this has half of Cynic in it, and Chuck Schuldiner. How the fuck can it be bad? I mean, Steve DiGiorgio's on here too. Holy shit, that's practically a supergroup. But I really still don't like Cosmic Sea. Now, if you go way back in time to when we started this channel, our first video was the Death album ranking, and I didn't necessarily like put Human super low, but it was a little bit lower, namely because Cosmic Sea kind of stood out to me as just a weird track that didn't make any sense, and while it's technical and spacey, it's just sort of noodling and wankery, and it just really doesn't add much to the album. The rest of this album is flat out brilliant, legendary. Like, this is just a flat out incredible album. But Cosmic Sea just screams, hey, let's experiment a little bit more. This sounded more like a Cynic song, except maybe not a great Cynic song. It actually kind of feels more like a Cynic idea that, you know, again, they just kind of jammed it out, and while the feeling is kind of cool that it has like sort of a jam session sort of feel, it sticks out like a sore thumb on this album. It doesn't really add much to it, and it just is just kind of an oddity. I don't have any problems with any musicianship on this album, but when it came down to like songwriting on that one, it's just sort of kind of goes off in different directions. It really doesn't scream like a whole song, and you know, while it's technically impressive, it's just not a great song to me. This is one of the few Death songs that I just don't like, and I pretty much always skip this one whenever I listen to Human, which I still listen to Human a lot. Like I said, this is a fucking incredible album, but that song is just, I don't know, odd. It just doesn't fit. It just kind of feels like an experiment that they just had to include to pad out the length, which, I don't know. I don't get it. But I'm sure this song has a lot of fans. I might be getting some shit for this. But, you know, hey, if you love that song, you love that song. I don't. I pretty much skip it every time just because I think it's the weakest link on this album, and honestly, one of the weakest links in the entire discography. But that's just me. I think Death rules. Pretty much every album is absolutely incredible. I just don't like that song. That song is one that I skip. I actually would rather listen to the cheesy cover of God of Thunder. Well, I don't know. That's kind of bad too. Can't all be zingers, but like 99.9% of Death is absolutely amazing. So yeah. Deftones, Around the Fur. I guess you could still say this was nu metal at this point, but I don't know. Deftones have always kind of been a little bit outside of that, but their first two albums, I guess you could argue, are nu metal. I love this entire album still, except for one track, and that is Mascara. It's the softest song on here, and this was kind of before they really got better at writing softer material. Like right now, they know how to write both heavy material and softer material, make it more, you know, ambient, lots of layers, very lush. This was just kind of this, I don't know, like just a weird soft song that doesn't really go much anywhere. And Chino became a much better vocalist later on, and his vocals at this point weren't quite enough to really carry a song like this. Like they got much better on White Pony. This one, they're just very muffled, and, you know, he's not really pushing his range very much. And then the song just, I don't know, it's flat out missing a hook. I don't know why this song is there, because everything else in this is really heavy and really good. Like, I love every other track on here, but Mascara I've always skipped over. Like, it just feels like this shitty indie rock band just kind of crept on an otherwise badass metal album. Maybe they were jamming a lot of Radiohead and was like, well, let's take a crack at that. Didn't work out, at least in my opinion. But yeah, the rest of this album, absolutely amazing. One of my favorite Deftones albums. But yeah, Mascara, no. It's just a no. But yeah, check it out regardless. Fear Factory, Demanufacture. I would say this is one of the most influential metal albums of the 90s, easily. This had just as much of an impact on me as probably Machine Head's Burn My Eyes, Pantera, all that stuff, Prong, Sepultura. But one song that I always skipped on here, and it sucks because it's the last track, or at least the last track in the regular edition, A Therapy for Pain. I have never liked that song. It's the longest track on the album, and it is carried predominantly by Burton's very flat cleans. Burton was really hit or miss when it came down to cleans. He was always a solid growler. I mean, he probably still is a solid growler. The cleans were always hit or miss with me, because he just has this kind of flat baritone delivery, and this song is slow and boring. Now, granted, the atmosphere is cool. It's very lush, but dear God, I wish something would fucking happen on this. It just feels so drawn out, and this is literally what ends an otherwise brilliant album. Like, literally, all these tracks are fucking incredible. I even like the cover of Dog Day Sunrise. I think they did a great job with that. Every track on here, and it's high energy, it is in your face, it's so well produced, the drumming's insane, Dino is fucking doing all sorts of crazy shit, but that last track is just droning boredom. I have tried so many times to give that song a chance, and I don't know, I think I wake up somewhere near the end, because it literally puts me to sleep. This album pretty much ends at Piss Christ for me, just because that should have been the closer. Like, it literally feels like the closing song. A Therapy for Pain feels like an exercise in boredom. I'm actually getting bored talking about it and thinking about it. So we'll just say, listen to every other track on here, and if you want, listen to A Therapy for Pain, and enjoy that musical slab of NyQuil. But yeah, this album still rules though. Testament, The New Order. One of my favorite Testament albums, one of my favorite thrash albums pretty much of all time. But there is one song on here that I don't like, and it is a cover. I guess you could make an asterisk next to it. But the cover of Nobody's Fault. That song has always just struck me as something extra, and there's a good reason, because that was essentially tagged on there, because when they turned in this version to the label, before they added that song, the label simply said, well, we need more out of you in terms of, like, we want a 40-minute release. And this ended up being one of the songs they added, and I mean, I suppose it's a good cover, but they really just didn't feel all in on it, and it really sticks out on the album as just an extra song, like just something to pad out the length. Everything else on here has a sense of urgency, a sense of just raw energy at all times. Every song in here kicks fucking ass. Pretty much except for that one, just because it's just added on. It's one of those things where if you legit did remove that track, I think it's even better. Like, and this is already a brilliant fucking album. I think it's even more streamlined with that. And again, it just kind of feels forced, and technically it kind of was. But yeah, I've never been a fan of that one. And I like early Aerosmith, but I don't know, at that point, Chuck Billy really didn't have the vocals to carry it. And again, it felt like, you know, they weren't all in on it. They were just throwing it in to, again, pad out length. But yeah, I absolutely love Testament. I mean, they have an amazing discography as well. Pretty sure most people have seen their ranking. If you haven't, checked out our Testament ranking. I have almost nothing bad to say about this. Barely I reserved it for this video, but yeah, nobody's fault. I mean, you can put an asterisk by it because it's a cover, but, you know, the label fucking messed with them, told them they had to pad out the length of their album because reasons. Otherwise, though, brilliant album. Love Testament. Jam all their shit. Testament's amazing. So on and so forth. Testament. Yes. And finally, Black Sabbath. Sabotage. I love this album. I have this one reasonably high up on my list in terms of our Black Sabbath ranking. I do not like Am I Going Insane? I've never liked that song. That is just this dumb little, like, almost radio AM gold bullshit song, and otherwise hard rockin' album that was full of attitude. Like, they were pissed when they wrote this because of all the legal battles and shit, and, you know, they were fuming. Hell, that song is followed by The Writ, which is one of my favorite Black Sabbath songs, and honestly, some of Ozzy's best lyrics. Like, he wrote that, and he was pissed, and he was inspired, and that really came out in that song. But this album is absolutely incredible. I love it. You know, it has so many great songs. Hole in the Sky, Megalomania, Symptom of the Universe, you know, fucking classics. But Am I Going Insane is just a dumb song, and I don't know why it's even on here. I mean, it feels so far removed from the attitude. Like, it's just playful and dumb. Like, you could have put this and queued it up to an episode of the Monkees and it would have fit in. Hell, the Monkees could have done that song, and yeah, no, it would have sounded like a Monkey song. It's just bad. But at least the rest of the album is awesome. But yeah, even looking at the song title, it's just like, why are you here? Oh yeah, radio is in parentheses. Who gives a shit? But yeah, rest of the album, absolutely incredible. A favorite of mine in terms of Black Sabbath. But Am I Going Insane? You might, if you keep listening to that dumb fucking song. Yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts there. All right, that knocks out this one. This was kind of fun to do and really challenging because I really had to, like, sift through a lot of music in order to find, like, albums I absolutely loved where it wasn't every single track. And generally most of the albums that I really love, I generally love every track. And I didn't want to throw in interludes. I thought about throwing out Incantation's Blasphemy just because it has that 27-minute long ambient track. But I mean, it's not really a song, so I left it off, but that is still just irritating, even though it technically was a troll they did. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. I hope this thread continues. So yeah, I'm going to urge people to continue. If you have a YouTube channel and you do metal stuff, do this one. This is a fun response. Again, I'm not entirely sure who started it, but I know I heard about it first through The Dark Path, and yeah, check out his channel for damn sure. But yeah, this is a challenge, and I'm curious to see what sort of shit we get in the comments too, because there's probably some I miss. There's probably some that I don't agree with that people think are bad. And there's probably someone here that, you know, they're like, whoa, hold on, that's a great song. But that usually gets good conversation going. So yeah, kind of looking forward to that. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We also are on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there'll be a link down below in the description. We also still have shirts available. If you would like one, hit us up on thrallsofmetal@gmail.com. Send us a message, put shirts in the message, and we will get back to you and hopefully sell you a shirt. So with that, I thank you all because, well, you all fucking rule, and we will catch you later.